And today we're going to be talking about what is self in class definitions. We have some important concepts here. First off, what's a class? Well, you can think of a class as a blueprint. For example, let's say that you were making lawnmowers and you got a blueprint that tells you exactly what is required to put in the lawnmower, how thick the metal needs to be, what functions the lawnmower has, and you got a blueprint for it. Okay, well, that blueprint again is the equivalent of class in programming and object-oriented programming. Now, the actual lawnmower that you built is an object. It's a physical object, and that is when you take a class definition and you create an object, that is the same functional thing you're doing there. It's also called an instance. Now, the word self, when you see it inside of Python, that refers to this particular object that has just been created when you go to instantiate the class. And different programming languages use different words. And you can actually use a different word other than self in Python. However, I would strongly recommend that you don't do that because it's going to make your code a lot harder for someone else to maintain. Now, like I said, be consistent with the rest of the world. Go ahead and use self. Okay, now let's take a little bit of a look at some code here. We see here that we're going to create a class employee, and we use the dunder method, the init right there. Notice that we got self, name, and pay, and we are assigning the name that is given to the class. We're assigning it to the instance variable name, and we're taking the pay and assigning it to the instance variable of pay. Now, I want to emphasize something that you can get away from. You can disagree with me. You can do it a different way. But as from someone who's maintained other people's code for probably 30 years, it's really important to make your code easily understandable. So what you want to do is, if you're going to call name and pay when you're creating the instance, go ahead and create the self name to be the same as what's getting passed to it, and the self pay to be the same as what's getting passed to it. That way it'll make it easier for your code. Now, we're going to create a function here that's going to return the weekly pay. Here, someone's going to be giving you the annual pay. So we're going to divide by 52 and return that with this weekly pay function. If we're going to do monthly pay, it's going to take the number of weeks that's in this particular month, and it's going to mathematically return that. And then I have included a function that is going to break to show you that you must include self with your methods that you're putting inside your class. And I'll show you over here when we are instantiating this employee and we're saying that Donnie makes $52,000 a year. Now we're going to print the weekly pay, and that printed out right here for 1,000. And then we're going to print the monthly pay if there's 4 weeks in that month, and it says there's 4,000. Then we're going to call the function that is broken. And you'll notice this doesn't have a self in it. And what ends up happening is the system, the interpreter, breaks at that point because it says that you have called it with one parameter, but it was expecting two. You called it with one, but argument was two were given. Okay, because what it's done is when it goes to call this, it calls it with the address of this instance and that 4. So it's passing 2 arguments, and we've defined it up here to have only 1 argument. Now what self actually is the equivalent of the address of this particular instance. Always remember that. It'll be easier to keep this straight in your head if you always remember that when you're defining self, when you're listing self up here, that's the address of this particular instance when you instantiate this particular object. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to our YouTube video. If you've got any questions or any comments, please leave it in the comment section below, and I will try my very best to respond to you as quickly as possible. Thank you.